super sexy G's, right behind me we have two Aston Martin Vantages. That's right, the old one and the new one. Let me show you the cars, let's talk about Aston Martin, and let's just figure out exactly how the evolution of these two happened and what's going on with Aston Martin in general. Let's get it! And now that I'm sitting here in the new Vantage, let me explain to you a little bit of the history of Aston Martin and how they got to where they are right now. And number one, I think the most important thing that we all need to understand is what type of car Aston Martin's making. And Aston Martin's making a luxury sports car, if you will. So think about maybe not a Ferrari, maybe not a McLaren like that edgy, but more of one of those with a Rolls-Royce-like feel, interior, materials, and quality. That's what Aston Martin's going for, and that's what they've been trying to nail for years and years and years. So what makes an Aston Martin an Aston Martin? And I want to say there are four principal elements that make this car so special. Number one, the design. The outside design of each one of these cars, I want to say through all of the years, has been one of the most unique and perfect designs of every single line that they've made of any other car maker that I can tell you of. I love every car that they've released. Every single one is a beauty, from the classics to the new ones. There's no lines that go unnoticed, and there's not a single design that's not exquisite. So number one, I want to say outside design. Number two, the sound. That's right, people. Once you hear an Aston Martin once or twice, you know exactly what to look for whenever you hear a car pass by. You immediately recognize that note. And the sound that these cars make is one of the most beautiful, if you will, on earth. It's not like a Harley's just loud. No, this is very finely tuned and it sounds so delicious at the right RPM. Aston Martin sound is legendary, people. Number three, the quality of build and all of the materials that they use. So every single Aston Martin that you're going to get into, it's going to be a little bit more special, and by a little I mean a lot more special than if you get into a Mercedes, or if you used to get into a Ferrari, or if you used to get into a McLaren. Every single little thing, they just try to make it so much better with every single piece of material, and I think you're going to see a lot of that right now from the old one even going into the new one. So materials and details are very important for Aston Martin, and I want to say that the last thing is a driving experience. That's right, they want it to feel sporty yet at the same time luxurious. So I put driving experience as fourth because I do think until this Vantage, Aston Martin never put that as at the top of their priority. With that said, that's where they stand right now. And for some of you guys who might be already familiar with Aston Martin up until here, I'm sure you guys know that Aston Martin wasn't a profitable company until last year. Last year was the first time that Aston Martin became a profitable company in all of its existence. And I want to attribute that to, aside from how they run their business, to the cars and the market. And the reason why is not because the cars are bad, not because the cars are anything. It's just because Aston Martin is shooting for like an in-between car. They don't want to make a Ferrari, they don't want to make a Porsche, they don't want to make a Lamborghini. They wanted to make a sports car, one of those, but with a Rolls-Royce-like interior, with a Bentley-like interior, and drive quality and ride quality at the same time. So when you're sacrificing stuff to like please like all of those people in the middle of the road, you're not really creating a product that people understand right away, and it doesn't identify its place in the marketplace from the second it comes out. So then it struggles. People buy it and they're like, yeah, I like it, but I don't know. I thought it would be a better canyon drive. Oh, I thought the acceleration was going to be much harder and all of that stuff. The car delivers on everything that we just said pretty damn well, and especially in the first three, but the fourth one, that's where they lacked, and I think that's why Aston Martin had to go through this right now, through this evolution that we're witnessing. But don't worry about Aston Martin too much, because right now they're doing fantastic. Ever since they partnered up with Red Bull Racing, things have escalated tremendously, and they partnered up with Red Bull Racing so they can create that hypercar, the Valkyrie, which is gonna bend pretty much space and time into whatever the hell he's gonna do on the track. We're talking about Formula 1 numbers on street cars. That is phenomenally bonkers. We're about to see a brand new generation of hypercars, and Aston Martin seems to be at the lead of it with the Valkyrie, so I'm very excited about that. Another thing that comes from that you might not be aware of is that Aston Martin actually hired the same person, the same guy that created the McLaren F1 to work on the Valkyrie. So you're about to see the most legendary car come out of Aston Martin, and that's never happened before. And now the lineup that they have coming out because of that, it's really, really impressive. They have another car we haven't talked about that it's gonna mindfuck everyone. And on top of that, let me talk about the thing that made me the most excited about it when I heard it 2 years ago, and that is that Aston Martin partnered up with Mercedes and AMG in order to share technology. So now we're gonna get the best of the best from both companies in Aston Martins too. But change doesn't sit that well with a lot of people, and as you know, Aston Martin is going through a big transition right now. They're going from the old to the new, and a lot of people are concerned because what about those beautiful naturally aspirated V12s? What about the manual transmissions? Everyone's concerned about those things disappearing from the brand. But let me tell you something, things are looking pretty damn good right now, and let's start with this. got the best of the last. That means that is a V12. That is the best car that they made, like the most legendary with the manual transmission and all of that stuff. This is why we got the best here to show you guys. Now, let's start with the one thing that we gotta get out of the way, the design. This one looks a little bit dated simply because, guess what? This platform, this car has looked like this for over 10 years. There's been minor improvements and little mods here and there, but mostly it stayed like this for over 10 years. And until now, we have a brand new design, completely redone for the first time ever right here. But either way, the car that you're looking at right now, it's basically the final edition of this one model that they've had forever, of this Vantage, of the old before AMG came in. And this one is loaded with about $40,000 of AMR equipment on it. AMR is Aston Martin Racing Team. What exactly is the AMR equipment here that you're seeing? All right, let me show you. Carbon fiber right here. This whole piece that's surrounding the grille, that right there. This splitter that is so long and made out of carbon fiber looks fucking phenomenal and gives that such an aggressive stance to the car, helps with downforce too at the same time. And obviously these that are on the side too for downforce. The wheels, obviously these are not the regular wheels that they put in every single car. Carbon fiber right here, carbon fiber on the side skirts. Then you go in the back and you look at that wing that is not that big, but still all carbon fiber, that's AMR. Also the rear diffuser, AMR, and the exhaust, titanium exhaust, AMR baby. So these two cars have the same setup right now. Both of them are front engine. Both of them have an actual trunk that you can use on the back. Both of them have the same buttons and same seats and everything, evolving from one to another. But there's been a big evolution from this to this. This is not the same car, ladies and gentlemen, and this one has been very controversial because of the small lights on the front and also that big mouth. But that's the new centerpiece of design around Aston Martin. They want those to be big. The new Aston Martin DBS Superleggera exactly has that design cue. It's not the same one, but it looks very similar, and I'm loving it. But either way, a lot of people say that that's a beautiful design, it's timeless and all of that, even though to me it looks a little older, and that this one is just too modern, like too flat, too simple. But let me show you something that I think might change your mind. So you see all these vents right here that provide some cooling for the engine and also look very aggressive on the outside. And everyone is saying, oh my God, how can they eliminate those from the new car? Guys, don't worry about a thing. You guys see how massive that is and how the engine's pushed back compared to the other one? Either way, we're not gonna get into that right now. I'm here to show you these. They didn't even bother hiding the fact that they're gonna just make the holes right here for the new vents. So they're definitely working on a car, not only with a V12, but also with those delicious vents on the front that are gonna break up the hood and gonna make it look so much sexier. And since we're looking at these right now, you're looking at that massive 6.0 liter V12 engine that it's in this one. And then in this one, you have a V8 twin turbo 4.0 liter courtesy of AMG, even though it's completely their own setup by Aston Martin. And the one difference that you're gonna see, aside from the difference in cylinders and the capacity of the engine, is how pushed back the engine is in this one. And the reason why compared to this one is Aston Martin really wants to get into better driving and handling. And I don't know if you guys know Matt Becker. Matt Becker is the boss at Lotus that was in charge of driving and handling for those cars. Now he's in charge at it in Aston Martin, and he's the one making this a priority, a way better, more aggressive driving experience. And I think they've done it here. The reason why they push the engine back and bring the transmission to the back of the car is so they can put all the weight of the car right here. What that does is, instead of having all of your weight from one end to the other end, like right here, woo, and then you're turning and anything can go wrong and there's a lot of weight to carry and unbalances in corners and all of that stuff, if you put all the weight in the middle, you can just turn aggressively. So that's what makes this car now focus more on the driving experience than before, which before to me was the fourth. I think now that's taken number one or number two. So we're talking about the engine and the driving experience, but I don't think you can have a full driving experience like in modern day cars with the older ones simply because of the aero. Not a lot of companies focused that much on aero back then, and this is not the exception. I mean, look at this car, it's a little chunky. Yeah, it's got some air vents here and there, but it's nothing major. But now look at this one. It goes from that big ass mouth right there. It doesn't need that big front lip just sticking out like that to keep the car planted and grounded. It's got it all right here. On top of that, there's obviously more black magic happening underneath the car. But on the side too, there's some relief for the air that gets trapped in here so you can keep the car down still, pushing it right here. And on the back, there's a lot of magic happening. I mean, look at this rear diffuser. So again, this is miles away in technology and aero and power than that one. So far, so good. And since we're already here, I mean, I just want you guys to look at the back design of the car compared to the older one. This is is one of my favorite design elements of the car. Just how the new Aston Martin lights go through the whole car, and also the diffuser. These look like magic right here. This is my favorite design spot in the car, and honestly makes it look so much better than that one. That looks like my grandma's fucking ass. One thing that I am missing indeed from the old one is these exhaust tips. I mean, they're beautiful, they're big, they're proper size for the car. Now you go into the old one, and you gotta look at how small these are. I mean, kind of looks out of place with that diffuser being so aggressive and the back, like having all those lines here and being so bulky, and then you throw those tiny ass exhaust tips. I'm sure they're gonna change them for the newer cars, but they could have just done better from the start. One thing that I just noticed was that the gas hole, that's right, the gas hole, was moved from the left to the right in the new one. Another thing that changed is the key. Not a lot of people talk about the keys. This is the older car key. Not a lot of people know that this is not called a key by Aston Martin. They call it an emotional control, I believe. Emotional controller or some stuff like that. And this right here is sapphire, and these are $1,500. That's right. There's nowhere you can put anything on them to carry them. There's like a little pouch that comes with the car, but if you put it in the pouch, you can put it inside of the car to start the car, which is retarded. And it's always got to go inside of the car, then it comes out, and then you got to make sure that you don't break it or scratch it, because it's $1,500 for this. Even the key is better. There's like so much substance to this key. It feels like a big piece of jewelry without having that sapphire pretentious piece of thing on it. And now this just looks like a proper supercar key. It looks different. It looks heavy. It looks like a piece of jewelry. I like it. There was a big upgrade on the key. Well done, Aston. I don't know how many of you guys know, but can you tell that the Aston Martin door goes up rather than just like this? So it comes out. That hasn't been lost. This car does it too, and I love it because this is the most efficient way not to destroy your door whenever you're parked right next to a big curb, because the car comes up like this, so you don't have to worry about the curb anymore. Well done, Aston. And speaking of the door and horrible things, I'm so glad they got rid of these. There's no more, I mean, like pretty much in every other car, there's no more place where you can insert that key and it looks horrible. And I know I'm showing you the other side of the car, but it still doesn't have it on the driver's side. So before I show you actually everything else, right there, that is one of the most controversial things about this car. So I don't know if you guys can tell, that's a manual car. That has a 7-speed manual gearbox. That's right. 7-speed plus reverse. So that completely disappeared in the new car and people are freaking out. So that manual gearbox completely changed for these pedals. And it's an automatic now, and the third pedal's gone. And this is great because even though this car has 510 horsepower and that one has 580 horsepower, this is way faster. This is like literally a second faster from 0 to 60. And why? Because of technology, people. This is needed and this is great to go fast and really enjoy your experience a lot more, because that car is not as good as this one. And since we're looking at the interior, I mean, the materials cannot be compared from one another. This is the older car. Look how you open the door and the controller's right here, and there's just some stitching here for the leather. Now, this is how you open the door in the new one, and now look at all the hardware that's here, including carbon fiber, chrome, new buttons, everything. You cannot compare the build quality of the old one with this. Now let me put it in the key so that you guys can see how it turns on. So here we go. And the first thing I want to show you in this one is just the cluster here. Everything's analog and the revs go completely the opposite way. And in the other one, no, everything is digital. And also these buttons right here. The screen right here looks old and it's kind of thick, and the buttons here are so much simpler than the other ones. This is a good thing though, but these are beautiful for what they are, but they're not as technologically advanced as the new one. These are kind of like flat surfaces that you can click on, and they're very responsive, which is incredible for an Aston Martin. I actually can't believe how good they are. And all of your buttons have glass, which is great. And you have a 7-speed dogleg manual transmission in this. That's right. So first gear goes Fast and the Furious style right there, people. It's awesome. And just look at the interior here and everything and all of the materials. It's completely different. The screen looks from this century, which is fucking amazing. All of the buttons translated into this, you know, just way more modern setup. And I love them because they're the same quality and everything. And yeah, it does seem like it's got a lot of buttons, but they're very easy to figure out. One thing you'll notice right here is the Mercedes-ness of this. That's right. That's straight out of a Mercedes, along with this right here, this, and your volume right there. So why? Because that's a Mercedes. And here's a little fun fact. These guys get the technology a year behind Mercedes. That means if in 2018 Mercedes comes out with Apple CarPlay, Aston cannot put it until the 2019 cars. That's like the rule and the deal that they got, and it seems like a pretty fair one to me because Mercedes is the big boy daddy of it. So Why not? If you want to turn on the car in this one, it's completely different. You don't even need the key. I have it in my pocket. All you need to do is step on the brake and just click right here. So as you can tell, this is more focused towards racing now. So everything is digital, everything is about you going fast and you realizing that you can go fast. All of your sport buttons are right here for your power and all of that stuff. Your suspension is right here. So if you want to adjust it, all you need to do is click right here. So big improvements on this car compared to the other one. Okay, now I'm driving the Vantage, the old one, the V12. Let me tell you the specs a little bit about the car. It's a V12 motor that's sitting on the front of the car, rear wheel drive. It produces 580 horsepower with everything that AMR, Aston Martin Racing, added to the car. So it's a very powerful car. It's a fun car because it's rear wheel drive. It's a manual 7-speed, and that's crazy. It's a dog-legged 7-speed transmission, and it's a manual, and you would think, holy shit, how do you even know where's what and second and third? Honestly, after 2 hours of driving the car, I got it down to a science. And it's actually a lot of fun. You guys hear that? So what makes this car so special? Well, it's a naturally aspirated V12, right? So that's a big plus for everyone that likes cars. You want the naturally aspirated. It's a manual, so you get to be in control of the car at all times. But it also has a lot of fun assistants that help you be a rock star. Like, for example, I don't know if you guys saw while I was shifting right now and you noticed it didn't sound like I let off the gas. And that's because I didn't. This has a system where you push the sport button and you leave it on and you leave it pressed for a little bit. A little manual gearbox appears there. When you have that option on, you can upshift, downshift without taking your foot off the gas, which is insane. It feels, look, I'm coasting the car, but I'm doing the downshifting, upshifting, and it makes you feel like a rock star too because he does the rev match at the same time. So I love that little gimmick, but I can see some people are going to complain, well, there's too many assistants. If you don't want them, you can turn them off, which is great. But why would you want to take them off? This is so much fun. The car goes from 0 to 60 in about 4.5 seconds. It's not the fastest car on earth, and obviously it doesn't have all of the air and all of the madness that makes every other modern supercar super, basically. So this is a more traditionalist car, if you will. More of a car for those purists with a little bit of assistance. I really like it. It has a lot of personality, but it's lacking in a bunch of stuff. Like what? Great acceleration, great brakes, but the suspension is not my favorite. It doesn't give me all the confidence that I want or need in a car like this one. Instantly, every time I go through bumps, the car feels like it's gonna go. And I don't like that at all. But again, this is an old car. This is a platform that's been around for 10 years. You can only do so much work tweaking it, right? So with the new car, we're expecting to get just that suspension feel to be completely gone. There's no doubt. It'll make you feel safer while you're driving. Like you can push it more and more and more over your own limit. And that's what I don't like about this one. It's very limiting in a way. I love the way it drives. I don't like how small the cabin is. That's always been the reason why I'm not a big fan of the smaller Aston Martin. I've been toying with the idea about buying one of these, and I have been for a while, and a while back I was like this close to getting it, but they just didn't do it. Again, it's just a feel. I'm not driving the car and putting it to a test to the limit. It's just a feel that it gives me, and I'm not a big fan of that. And how does that compare to the new car? Well, I'm sure you guys have looked at the numbers. The new car has 100 less horsepower, but the technology is much better, right? So I'm expecting that to be much faster, and for me to feel more brave, I took my foot off the gas like an idiot, like a regular person. But this is so much fun. Shifting gears and all that noise that it makes, like every time you do the shift, I love it. I love the click, 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 click sound it makes it feel high-end. Everything inside is like up to par for an Aston Martin car. There's nothing where you look in the car and go, but it's, again, this is just not my style. This is not my driving favorite, if you will. So now let's check out how it compares to the new car, because after driving this, it's gotta be like a fucking new dimension, right? I don't know if you guys noticed, but now we're in the new Vantage. This whole thing is a whole new beast, and there's nothing to be compared to the other one. First of all, let's talk specs. That's the first thing we need to say. This is powered by a V8 twin turbo engine, 4.0 liter engine. That sounds familiar? That's because it's an
exactly the same one that you find in the AMG GTS. It's a different version of that engine with Aston Martin's own gearbox that sits back there. So it's a new mix, it's a new combination, and what that does is an incredible result altogether with everything else that the car has. This is a really big improvement over the last one. The suspension. Remember I was telling you I don't feel confident in the suspension in the other car? Well, homies, this one makes you feel like you're a fucking rock star. All of the weight is so condensed in the middle of the car that legitimately feels like it's not moving no matter how fast you grab a turn. So that in itself, there's a leap the size of a galaxy in these two cars. Obviously the gearbox, I can't compare to the old sequential gearbox. That was pure shit. This is so much better. This is instant. Downshifting, upshifting, everything. There's no waiting. The noise, obviously it's not as pure as the other noise, but now it sounds like a muscle Aston Martin. And that's a different personality that I haven't seen in Aston Martin out yet. Everything has been so regal, so elegant, so much older, but not this. Nah, this is young, this is sexy, this is strong, this is everything new that you would want. It's all geared towards me driving it just like a Ferrari. It's got all of the controls on the steering wheel for anything that I need. I got my RPMs right in front of me so I can focus. I got different modes. Every time I switch one of those modes from sport, track, whatever, the car really makes a big difference in its behavior. It's not the same car anymore. The chassis, even the chassis and the platform alone is completely different, and there's so much more space here. I don't feel like I'm in a little tiny car like trapped. This feels much better when you're inside, and even probably better than the AMG GTS and the GTR, just in the way you're sitting. It's not as bulky in the middle as those because of the different transmission, and that works. That's in this car's advantage. I am honestly mega in love with this car. Yeah, it doesn't have the sound of the other one, but everything else, it does 100 times better. And I even like the sound of this better, although I don't think it sounds as good from the outside as the other one. But I gotta throw a disclaimer there. I'm a big fan of evolution in many fields, like technology, self-evolution, like everything. Change to me is king. I've learned that me being stuck in the same for years is not doing anything, that I always gotta keep changing, always keep evolving. And the same thing is with cars. And this has been the biggest evolution from one model to another that I've experienced, I think, ever. There's a massive leap in between these two cars. This is a phenomenal car, and I have to apologize for the spec. I don't know what these companies are doing, sending these ugly ass fucking cars to be their demo cars. They need to put all the bells and whistles on the car. Why? Guys, marketing 101. You want to show people the everything and then have them go, I can't afford that, can I get a lesser version? That's what you want. Why are you sending this is such an older spec. You want the young buyer, the new guys that are going after Ferrari. And you know why? Because Aston Martin is going officially after Ferrari, and I think this is the first time Aston Martin is knocking on that door and actually someone's gonna open. I really do think so. 2 years ago I said it. Aston Martin's positioning itself to take over Ferrari's business. All they need to do is get these cars to be fun to drive. Like, yeah, the other ones are fun, but be like great. And now these cars are fucking great. They sound amazing. They have the latest technology. They have Mercedes reliability. What else can you want in an Aston Martin? Guys, I'm gonna leave you with that. Would you take the new one or the old one? That's it. For me, it's the new generation Aston Martin. God, what an improvement. Anyways, my name is Alejandro, guys. Thank you very much for watching and joining me. Always remember, I never approve these messages. So, yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thank you very much.